Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Malabite Efeni.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Efeni.
Tundu. Let's start the review with this day newspaper, Nigeria's newspaper of records. The lead story: Showdown looms in APC over tenure of Caretaker committee. Buni denies tenure elongation plot. Secures Buhari backing for fresh membership registration. Yes, the committee set up to plan the National Caretaker Committee and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee. Yes, that's the name. National Caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee. With few weeks to the end of its 6-month tenure, it's like they are not making any move to vacate that seat. Of course, that is giving rise to the allegation that this committee, headed by Buni, the governor of Yobe State, is planning a tenure elongation. But you wonder why a state governor would want to leave the huge task of governing a state like Yobe and will be dwelling so much beyond these 6 months doing party work. He says he wants to reconcile all factions, settle all rifts, but not many believe him. But he's not the only governor in that panel, in that committee. Others include Atiku Bagudu of Kebbi State and Abubakar Badaru of Jigawa State. Now, is this the battle for the soul of the APC? We thought Ushomole was the problem, but now maybe Buni is becoming the problem. But if we look at what other newspapers are reporting this morning, the Daily Independent newspaper, VIPs ignore IGP order on withdrawal of police orderlies. I thought if the IG gives instruction, it is not up to the VIPs to decide. Rather, the policemen will obey their boss and return to base, return to the police station or to the barracks. But we have also seen an IGP would disobey the commander-in-chief. So if policemen are disobeying him, is it a matter of what goes around comes around? Perhaps he will need to give that order again for his men to comply. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper, NSAS, bans to rebuild Bond police station. Lenders to launch youth empowerment fund. IGP, 11 billion naira police capital budget inadequate. Asha Yusufu, Davido, Two-Face files, 46 others sued. We'll come back to that. Now, the Guardian newspaper. Kanu cracks down on beer despite 40.6 billion naira remittance. Hisbah vows to sustain confiscation of intoxicant beverages. Dealers count losses. UAE decriminalizes alcohol. Now, when Rotus raised this story yesterday, I was wondering, in the pool of VAT shared among the states, there is VAT from beer consumption in Lagos, in Delta, and other states. And Kanu will collect theirs without asking that the bit from beer consumption in other parts of the country should be removed. Well, it's very funny. They are using beer VAT, collecting it, yet you are destroying bottles of beer in Kanu. Well, we'll look at that later. The Punch newspaper. CBN accuses NSAS campaigners of terrorism. This is a weighty allegation coming from an unlikely source. I don't know whether it is the position of the CBN to determine who is a terrorist and who is not a terrorist, who is carrying out terrorist activities. Apex Bank alleges transaction in frozen accounts can cause economic security harm. Freezing account is illegal. Federal government behaving like a terrorist, says Aisha Yesufu. Now, we move over to the Daily Trust newspaper. Land border closure. Anger as Dangote BUA get waiver for export. Selective waiver killing small businesses. Peterside, that's Atedo Peterside. And you know when Atedo Peterside is angry, it is with a reason, with rationale, with logic. So he too is angry over this selective waiver. We want fairness, local exporters. There's presidential approval, customs, cement sales for 3,100 naira. I was wondering yesterday, if we have too much cement in the country and we have to export, why is cement price going up and up? Question we need to, economists need to answer. Because if we have so much, then there should be glut in the land, price should come down. But that is not the case, and we have not seen approval selective, as some will say, that these two major cement manufacturers can export their products. Well, when the Southwest governors and monarchs met in Lagos with the presidential delegation led by the Chief of Staff, Professor Gambari, one of the issues they raised is that open this border, because people who do legitimate business across the border in the Southwest are suffering. It's not only smuggling that takes place in the border. So if you want to stop smuggling and kill small businesses, now, big businesses giving waiver, well, not a way to govern, I will say. You must take into consideration the interests of one and all. The Daily Sun newspaper, Lagos bar Tinubu, Fashola, Ambode, others from pension. Ex-deputy governors also affected. APC, Efeni, others hail governor. Yes, and Tribune also has that story. Lagos to stop pensions for ex-governors, deputies. Someone to send executive bill for repeal of public office holder pension law. Presents 1.155 trillion budget proposal for 2021. Yes. Then the Vanguard newspaper, NSAS clamp down. Reverend Sam Adeyemi, Davido, Two-Face, Kanu, 46 others dragged to court. Police, DSS arresting protesters. Delta panel member cries out. How police deceived me to arrest my brother, Eremosele's sister. Police moved my client to Abuja, denied bail, says lawyer. Police deny arresting protesters. Yes, that is the latest there on NSAS. But if we just look at the foreign newspapers quickly, in the UK, the Times of UK reporting NHS plan to vaccinate 1 million every week. The health services is ready to give the first dose next month. So this vaccine, the UK is ready to give the jab to its citizens. Of course, going by the order, the elderly, 80 and above, 70 and above, 65 and above, and those who are in care homes, as well as care home workers, will be the first to get the shot of this vaccine. Now, in the USA, Washington Post is reporting justices appear ready to uphold Affordable Care Act. A majority of the Supreme Court justices appeared ready on Tuesday to uphold the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. the essential components of this act in the face of the latest challenge to the healthcare law brought by Republican-led states and, of course, the one and only President Donald Trump, defeated but refusing to accept. And the justices whose pronouncements have already given this indication include the Chief Justice himself, Justice John Roberts, as well as, guess who? Brett M. Kavanaugh.
Okay, Brett Kavanaugh.
Brett Kavanaugh did really well.
Yes.
Shock horror.
So the justices have a mind of their own.
They do.
We'll see that.
No, we don't always see that, we have to say. We don't always see that.
I mean, I think it's a comment on Amy's first decision. Let's see how that will go before we know if she has a mind.
No, Amy will be fine unless the Trump electoral matter comes before her, then she might waver. We'll see.
Okay,
But what we have seen is the various institutions in the United States refusing, for the most part, to be intimidated by the President of the United States or to be used. And we have seen an angry president who has had to sack the Defense Secretary, Expa, and perhaps before he leaves office, eventually, you will find President Trump sacking more people because he thought the FBI would be used to support him, the CIA would protect him. The only person who seemed to be so amenable to his antics would seem to be just the Attorney General, William Barr. But this is the whole point about how a democracy can only be protected by very strong institutions. I had always been skeptical when people say, oh, the Supreme Court will give the presidency to him. That may not happen. But quickly, let me comment on the suits that you referred to in about 2 or 3 of the papers. I don't understand why the CBN is taking NSAS protesters to court. The CBN is suing this person, seeking to validate his ex parte motion before a federal high court on the grounds of money laundering, on the grounds of terrorism and all of that. Well, I thought the job of the CBN is to attend to monetary policy. And we have seen under Godwin Emefiele, a CBN that is into everything. Fiscal policy, monetary policy. One of these days, we will have Godwin Emefiele of the CBN doing the job of the President of Nigeria. If the CBN has any concern, there are institutions in place that the CBN can report to. I mean, we have the Financial Intelligence Unit, we have the EFCC. So if there is economic sabotage, as the CBN is claiming, it's not the job of the CBN to go to court. I mean, where is the office of the Attorney General of the Federation? So I think in this particular case, the CBN is acting ultra-virus, and we can debate that endlessly. The CBN should just focus on its primary assignment and stop over-distributing itself all over the place. That is one point. That because the CBN has no investigative powers. How did the CBN arrive at that conclusion? Who investigated it? So this kind of thing, I really find it very odd. Now, as for the other matter, there is one Kenechukwu Okeke, who says he's taking people to court because 50 persons to court,
including our own Leila Johnson.
Yes, because
did not even participate in the protest.
Because they used the internet to mobilize people and his properties were destroyed. He will need to prove it. He who alleges must prove. Yeah. And then questions must be raised about his locus in this particular matter. Well, we don't seem to have time, but
unfortunately,
that's fine.